which is what I'm doing right now. Pastor Joe asked me a few weeks ago to preach, and he never really has stipulations on what I have to preach about. He doesn't say, man, we're in a series on battle. I need you to preach on battle, right? But that's where we're at. And initially, I was going to talk to you guys about just being intentional. And I felt like I had a really good word. It's actually been on my heart for a couple months. Well, a couple weeks ago, we went to Dallas to go see my mom. She got a new house. So we went to go see her, but also my stepdad, who's not with my mom anymore. They're not together. They haven't been together in a long time, but he lives down there as well. And we were going to go see him because he has cancer, and it's in his liver, stomach, and he's actually just gone into liver failure. And so we wanted to go lay hands on him, and Casey especially was just warrior. She's like, we got to get hands on him, and we got to pray for healing. And I'm like, yes, we do. And so we went down there, and we got to see him and lay hands on him, and it was great. But then we, on the way back, I felt like God was saying, you need to speak on battle, because we all deal with battles every single day, right? Whether it's physical or spiritual especially, those battles are constant, right? We know that there's spiritual warfare going on in the supernatural that we can't really see, and we have an enemy that is constantly trying to come against what we're trying to do, which is to glorify God and bring everybody to a saving knowledge, right? So that's what I'm talking about today. Is I am going to continue the series on battle, and it is called Believe in Battle. And battles are inevitable. You know, the Bible tells us in John 16, verse 33, these things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world, right? So we know just by that text, and there's plenty other texts to show us that we're going to go through trials in this life. We're going to go through battles in life, right? And so if it's inevitable that battles are going to happen, then why do we let them rob us when we're in a battle? Why do we let the battle rob us of our belief? Why do we let the battles really get us down? Sometimes it can be depression, right? A battle can send you into places that aren't good, that aren't what we want, right? But if they're inevitable, that we're going to experience them, why do we take such a back seat to them? And why do we kind of run from them and shy from them and say, no, I don't want this in my life. I don't want that. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. So let's kind of break down the word battle. I love definitions because it makes me understand better. When I study, I try to look up. I'll read a definition, and there's a word in the definition that I look up, right? So I just try to because I'm not a super smart guy, and I don't want to ever say something and it come across wrong, and so we have to dig deep into what we're studying. So battle is a fight or struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. A fight or struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. Tenaciously just means in an unwavering way, right? So we know that there's physical battles. Physical battles can be anything from I broke my leg. That's a physical battle every day until it's not, right? Physical battles are like war, like in Ukraine. That's a physical battle. Everybody knows what physical battles are, but we don't really deal with physical battles every day. Some of us might, if we are handicapped or are impaired in some way that physically we can't do the things that we want to do, then obviously, sure, you have a physical battle every day. But for the majority of us sitting in this room, we don't really have physical battles every single day, all day. Would y'all agree with me on that? But spiritual battles, we do. And they're always going on. And so based upon the definition of battle, I've created one for spiritual battle. And I defined it as this, and it's our spiritual battle is our unwavering fight. Remember, tenaciously, the battle is to fight or struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. So if our spiritual battle is our unwavering fight to preserve righteousness and resist the enemy. Right, our spiritual battle every day, if we are fighting this war against the enemy, and what's our goal in fighting the enemy, right? It's to resist him, and it's to preserve righteousness in the kingdom, isn't it? So the thing about spiritual battles is they're really hard because you don't know what God's doing in them necessarily all the time. It's not until it's hindsight, right? It's looking back on the battle and going, man, God did do something in that, right? But the whole time I was complaining and I was whining at God and I got mad at God and I started to play victim because he's not doing it the way that I want. But and let me tell you this, God's not giving you the battle, right? God didn't put the battle in your life, but he'll use it every time. But what happens is we turn into this, we kind of turn into these Debbie Downers of like, poor pitiful me. And guys, I'm not singling you out. This comes from me as well. Is like we tend to play the victim when bad things happen to us, right? We don't truly have I don't want to say that we don't have faith, but the faith to not play victim, if that makes sense. So, but we're not victims, right? None of us are victims. When we go through battles, we are not a victim. We are victors, right? We are all victors, especially Pastor Victor. As I was writing this, every time the word victor came up, I'm like, I can't get away from that. So we are victorious. 1 John chapter 5, verses 4 and 5 say, for whatever is born of God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith. In other words, it's saying that our faith is the victory that has overcome the world. So our victory comes because of our faith in Jesus and the belief that he is who he says he is, right? So belief determines victory. Would you agree with me on that? Sorry. So belief determines victory. I found this thing on the United States Marine Corps website. And because I was looking at battle, and I've always been intrigued. I almost joined the Marines. I know that's laughable now. But I almost joined the Marines right after Casey and I had our first kid. And I didn't, but I've always been intrigued by the Marines and Navy SEALs. But I got in, and I was kind of looking. I'm like, what makes, because I have a family member, my brother-in-law, who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. And so I know how they think. I know how, I've been around a lot of those military guys. I've heard a lot of stories, and it's really intriguing stuff. And so whenever I was preparing for this, I'm looking like, okay, what gives a Marine mindset, that warrior mindset? And I came across this. It's crazy that it lined up like this, but the Marine mindset is an actual thing that the Marines embody, right? And they define it as Marine mindset is the character and resiliency component of the Marine Corps spiritual fitness program. And so I got on there, and they have these comparisons between a mediocre mindset and a Marine mindset. And I'm going to read some examples for you. Mediocre mindset says, because I grew up in a difficult environment, I am disadvantaged, and my past makes me bitter. But the Marine mindset says, because I grew up in a difficult environment, I'm advantaged, and my past makes me better because of it. Number 2, mediocre mindset says, I am a victim. Marine mindset says, I was victimized. Mediocre mindset is fear-fearing and avoids fearful situations and avoids discomfort. Marine mindset, fear-facing, and knows that facing fear is the best way to build courage. Mediocre mindset puts trust in one's emotion and believes that feelings are always facts. Marine mindset is skeptical of emotion and considers that feelings, are sometimes traps. And the last one, mediocre mindset is ignorant of the effect one's own internal messages have on their performance and well-being. But the Marine mindset understands the effect one's own internal messages have on their performance and their well-being. And so I read all this and I'm like, man, that's crazy, because really in battles, spiritually or physically, we can have a choice between a mediocre mindset or a Marine mindset. And so I called my brother-in-law, of course, and I was like, hey man, like I read this. He's like, oh yeah, there's a whole thing about it. And I was like, yeah, I know, I found it. That's what I'm saying. I found it, but I had a question. I was like, is there something in particular in the Marine Corps that they do that gives you that Marine mindset? Is there something in particular that you can just share with me? I said, because I've dug deep enough now that I've got to tell the people, right? If there's something in particular that they do to give you that mindset and keep it, then I want to know about it. And he's like, man, Tyler, like, there's not one thing. He's like, it's from the time that you put your feet on the yellow footprints and get sworn in, you are basically told that you're indestructible. And he says that so indestructible that they say that if you die, Marines stand guard at the pearly gates. Some of y'all have probably heard that before. And so with that perspective, like, he said it's everything that they do. And you can disagree with some of the things the Marines do or agree with it. I'm not really here to get into that. I'm more just talking about the mindset and the positivity behind where they're going into battle, right? Whether it's a small mission or they're just doing their job, they have that Marine mindset, that positive mindset, that good self-talk, that good self-awareness, right? So you see, the biggest reason that battles take so much from us spiritually and emotionally is because our perspective and our belief. And I can tell right now, I can tell what you believe in your heart by asking how you're asking you about your battle. I can tell you what your perspective is on it. If you have any faith in that battle, if you believe God in the battle that you're in, I can tell by just talking to you. Are you like, if I walk up and I say, hey Kim, how's it, how are you today? Or how's your mother or something? He's like, man, she's just not doing good, and I think that this is gonna happen, and she's not gonna make it, and just you get in this mind frame of negativity in a way. And we can call it realism, or we can be spiritual, right? And we can believe God for things. But also, on the other hand, is I can ask you and you can go, man, she's not doing well, but she's going to be healed. I believe that. God is going to heal her. It doesn't matter, right? So you see the difference in the mindsets. But a lot of what we say stems from what we believe. Luke 6:45 says, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. Growing up, Methodist, trying to be as Baptist as possible and memorize Scripture. We grew up as the way that was said in a different version, not New King James, but is out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So then that means that what you believe in your heart is reflected in your words. When you're in a battle, you have to choose like the Marines do. Am I going to speak good over the situation, or am I going to be negative about the situation and just go down this road of victim mentality? A victim mindset says that this battle will defeat me or will destroy me. But the warrior mindset of that, the Marine mindset of that would say that this battle will deploy me, right? That this battle's nothing. When I'm done with this, God, send me into something bigger. Test me. but it all starts with how we talk about the battle. If we believe that Jesus is who he says he is, then essentially, and we lean on his promises, then that's all we need, really. You know, I mean, because the Bible is full. I almost pointed to this and said this book. This is an iPad. But the Bible is full of promises, right? And if you stay in that lane of promises in your battle and you believe God for who he really is, then what are we worried about? Right? We're thinking of the battle in a worldly perspective instead of what we know to be actually true in our faith, right? And we have to start realizing the power of our words. God's words create, right? In the beginning, in Genesis, he speaks it and he creates it, right? Just by speaking. And so and God can destroy with his words too, right? So if God's words create or can destroy, and we're made in God's likeness, which it tells us to, right? Then don't our words have the ability to create something or destroy something, right? So when we speak about a subject, about something we're dealing with, it matters how we talk about it, right? It matters the words we choose. Matthew 15:11 says, "Not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of his mouth, that defiles a man," right? And defile just means to violate the sanctity of, and sanctity is holiness. So what comes out of the mouth, that violates the holiness of a man or a woman. And I don't know about you guys, but that scares me. I'm like, my words have the ability to violate my holiness and my sanctity, right? Like that's a scary thing to think about. And it'll make you start thinking about what you're saying when you're saying it in the positive ways that you say it. I wasn't going to add this. I was talking to my aunt yesterday about the sermon today, and we started talking, and we ended up talking about belief, because that's what I'm talking about. And we were talking about some situations that she's going through and things like that. And I brought up this passage, Mark 9, when the boy with the unclean spirit, the father comes to Jesus and says, I tried to get your disciples to heal him, but they couldn't, right? And, and I'll read it real fast. And so we pick up right there. He says that the disciples couldn't heal him. He answered him and said, "O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me." Then they brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit convulsed him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed. That's weird. Wallowed, foaming at the mouth. So he asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood, and often he has thrown him both into the fire and into water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Jesus said to him, "If you believe, all things are possible to him who believes." And immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears. I'm going to stop right there, though, because this father is going through a battle, and so is the son, right? A battle that is spiritual. It says it's an unclean spirit. So this isn't just a physical battle. He's dealing with a spiritual battle as well. And this father I love that it says, immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears. So he's crying out to Jesus in this moment because he's so fed up with the battle. He's hurt, but now he believes, right? He believes Jesus can do this. And he says, "Lord, I do believe, help my unbelief." And I wonder how many times we have doubt, right? So like Sherman, my stepdad who has cancer, Of course, I'm believing for healing, right? Like I believe God can do it. But in the back of everybody's mind that's believing for something, there's an ounce of unbelief. But we don't talk about it. We don't address it. We don't repent of it. Because it's in the back of our head. We didn't say it, but we're kind of thinking something, right? But this guy says, help my unbelief. He instantly repents. He says, God, I do believe. Like, we all believe in God, right? But do we truly believe that he can do miraculous things? Like, truly. Because if we do, we know that there's a part of, there's sometimes the enemy creeps in and tells you, well, yeah, he can, but he's not going to do it for you. That's not a big enough miracle. Or that's too big. Like, he's not going to go that big, right? And then you start to have this little bit of doubt. But what happens when we start to speak it and say, help my unbelief? It's like instant repentance. Like, God, you know I have unbelief somewhere in there. But I believe you are who you say you are. But there's still a piece of me that has a little bit of doubt. Help that. And God, that pleases God. That shows that you have enough faith in him to know that he's going to take the unbelief from you. When we went to Dallas to see my mom and Sherman, we were eating dinner with my mom. And my mom, and I don't know if she'll listen to this or if she is right now, I'm not sure, but I'll apologize later. But we're sitting at dinner, and God bless my mom. She is so sweet, and she cares about a lot of people, okay? But she also is a worrywart, right? And tends to take sometimes the negative road, still edifying, but negative. And we're talking, and she starts to talk about Sherman's situation. And she starts to talk kind of, well, you know, we've got to talk about this, and we need to start thinking about this. And you know, I'm just worried about this. And just negative, 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 negative. And all I hear is blah, 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 right? And she's going to kill me. But I look at her and I say, Mom, you know it's a miracle that you're here today? And she looks at me like I just gave her the pastor thing. You know, like, you know it's a miracle that you're here. Like, God put you on this earth. And so that's what she was thinking that I was saying. But I was like, no, Mom. It's a miracle that you're here today, and it's a miracle that I'm here today, that we're alive. And I can see it click. And it takes back. We start talking about the past. When I was about 15, she had this boyfriend that she was dating. He was a private investigator. And you know, if any of you have dated or you're dating now, you probably know when you're dating, who they are the first couple months can really change down the road, right? And that's what dating is. You get to choose. You know, that's why you don't marry them after a week, because you want to know them, right? So she ends up having to break up with this guy because he's got a temper, just a list of things, just didn't check out all the boxes. So she has to break up with the guy. Well, a few weeks later, she pulls up to work in the parking garage, pulls into her spot, and a truck pulls up right behind her, and it's him, and he's got a gun. And he takes my mom and, basically puts her, she said it was a rental because it wasn't his truck. Puts her in the truck, takes her back to his apartment in Louisville, assaults her, and then tells her that he's going to kill her and he's going to kill her kids, all of us. And my mom, she's very smart, and she got herself out of that situation in a way that most of us couldn't. She talked him down, kind of like no, we can be together, you know, with her fingers crossed. No, I want this to work. Like, no, we can, whatever happens, like, we're fine. This is going to work, right? She's just kind of talking him off that ledge. Well, it works, and he ends up letting her go. So she gets with a detective and her friend Holly, and they're headed to Bailey Regional Medical Center so that they can check her out. She had been assaulted, and so they needed to take her to the hospital and get her checked out. Well, on the way, they find out that the guy is following them. And so they end up, it's right before they pull up. And so he says, you get out and you two run into the hospital. And when they do, the guy pulls up with a gun and starts shooting at the detective. Well, the detective chases him and a lot of other cops. They do a police chase from Baylor Regional Medical Center all the way to Gainesville in an IHOP. And he goes into the IHOP, he takes one of the employees hostage, goes into the bathroom, ends up letting the employee go, and then he takes his own life. And we're here today, right? And that's a miracle. And so I'm telling her, that's what and I knew that it clicked in her because she started crying, We didn't even have to talk about it. I said, just the fact that we're here, And then me, I'm in high school, and I'm kind of lost. I'm doing bad things, drugs, alcohol, all that. I have at least 11 friends that I used to hang out with and party with that are dead now, whether it's suicide or drug overdose. But I'm standing here, right? So that's a miracle, and that's what I was trying to explain to my mom is you can't discount where God's taken you or what he's going to do. So why are we so wrapped up in the battle, in the problem, that we forget to see God for who he really is, what he's brought you through before, right? And he's a rewarder. Hebrews 11:6 says, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. What pleases God most is our faith, right? God just wants us to believe in him. And we don't have to right our wrongs to have faith, right? We don't have to have this long list of mistakes that we have to make right before we come to Jesus, right? Even as a Christian. A lot of times when we get into something or it's sin or something like that, we tend to well, no. You kind of shy away from God instead of fully addressing it right there. Man, I'm dealing with this. He knows. You might as well tell him. But you don't have to earn, or you don't have to right all your wrongs for God to love you or accept you, right? In Luke chapter 23, we see that we see Jesus on the cross with two criminals, right? And it says, they're hanging on the cross. It says, then one of the criminals, this is verse 39, Luke 23:39. Then one of the criminals who were hanged blasphemed him, saying, if you are the Christ, save yourself and us. But the other, answering, rebuked him, saying, do you not even fear God, seeing that you are under the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said, so again, this is a battle. This criminal has had a life of crime, and he's hanging on the cross, and he comes to a realization that, man, I did not live my life right. And he's in this battle with himself of going he doesn't even expect that he gets to be with Jesus forever. He doesn't expect that. When he says this, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom, that implies that he's not going to be with him, right? So, and he says, basically, man, you and I, we've been criminals. We deserve this death. But this man did nothing wrong. And he says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said to him, assuredly I say to you, today you will spend eternity, or you will be with me in paradise. So he didn't have to earn it, right? But he was in this battle, and he thought or he didn't have to right his wrongs, right? So the fact that we feel like we have to right everything to come to God is not right. We just have to have faith. That's all this guy had. Is he knew who Jesus was, and just by speaking that out and saying Because when he said, remember me when you come into your kingdom, that implies that he believes that he's who he says he is, right? So here he is with faith, and Jesus rewards him of that because God, that pleases God. Our faith pleases God. So when we're in a battle and we're, oh man, poor me and all this, we have to learn that our talk, that our belief systems have got to change. We've got to be in more of a warrior mindset than a mediocre mindset. And whatever the battle is, whether it's cancer or sin in your life, or you have a child that's wayward, not living for the Lord, or a family member, these are all spiritual battles. But if you speak about, say it's a person that's wayward, well, they're never going to come to the Lord. They're just, we're kind of speaking that negative out. That's not warrior. That's not Marine mindset, right? We've got to start to believe God for things. Like for Sherman, I'm believing healing. Like I truly believe that it can happen. And it's going to happen. It may not be on this side, but it's going to happen. And I can stand firm and assuredly say, he's healed. Right? And so what if we start speaking that into our situations and believing it? Because so a man thinketh in his heart he is, right? So if we can think it and we can speak it, then we need to make sure that it, sorry, I thought I missed a whole section, I didn't. But we need to start to believe these things, and we need to start speaking them out, and we need each other. Like, I don't stand here and say, you have no faith, right? It's not to point anybody out, because it's me too, but we have to warrior for each other. Because there's a bigger battle. Big C Church is under attack, and we have been for a long time. So it's my job to tear these walls down, right? And it's your job to do that in my life too. Like if I have issues, I need you to battle for me because I'm weak sometimes. A lot of times, actually. But that's why the people around us and how they speak matters as well. And so today, I wanted to do something. I'm closing with this. I feel like we need to tear these walls down today. And we need to do some business in the area and in my own life, because before I got here, I was thinking, everywhere in my life, okay, is there a battle I'm dealing with that I don't really have full faith for God in? Like I'm kind of being the victim, playing the victim. And yes, there is. And so I've got to do some work too today. But I believe that as a church family, we need to go to war for each other. And so what I want to do is that if there's anybody here, and this is different than what we usually do, but if we can be bold here and intentional about whoever this is for, if we can be intentional about what we're about to do, I don't want to share it too fast, then I believe that we as a church family here at Encounter Church are going to be way stronger for it. But also as Christians, we're going to be stronger for it. And in Big C Church, we're going to be stronger for it. And we're going to believe for some things right now. And we're going to put our faith in these things that God says, in this prayer that's about to happen. And it's going to please God. And when we please God, we as a whole kind of come back to our first love in a way, right? Because he's our everything, our anything. So what I want to do is that if people would be bold with me today, that if you're in a battle, we all have them. We all have them. But if you are in a battle and you just need to believe a little more, you need to turn your mindset, you need to change your perspective on some things, and you need to start speaking better over the situation, thinking better over the situation, then today, I want us as a church family to pray for you. And there's more than one person in here. So if you're worried about standing up because you're going to be kind of singled out and everyone's going to look at you, no. I bet a lot of people are dealing with battles that they need a little more faith for today. So if that's you, I just want you to take a very bold step and just stand up where you're at. It's a lot more than I thought. I love it. Everybody else, look around. If you're not standing up, look around. These are your family. These are your fellow brothers and sisters, warriors